Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is August 7th, 2022. Hopefully, you've had a good week. Sorry, I missed you. I took a day off, I guess you could say, from podcasting, which feels weird because I've been doing this, I think, for about like a year and some change at least, and I really haven't taken a day off. Kind of just realized that on Saturday. I was chilling. Actually, we can just go through my week. So we'll work it backwards. A little Tarantino action, maybe a little change up the scenes. So Saturday, I went to my friend's uh, kid's birthday party. Happy birthday, Josh. Actually, it's his official birthday today. But we hung out, shot the shit, put my feet in the pool, real kickback, real fun stuff. So had a good day there, had a fun time. Wound up eating some La Rosas, so I guess you can say that's the food corner. Definitely the best thing I've eaten all week. We ordered a lot of food. I got some hot wings, so it's just some bone-in buffalo wings with some blue cheese. I was craving that. Also, also for the record too, I'm team drums. Just so we're all clear. Don't get me wrong, I'll eat flats, but I prefer the drum. I'm a drum guy. I'm a drummer boy. I also then got, I believe what it's called, the Buddy Deluxe. I think it was like either sausage or pepperoni, and then it had banana peppers and maybe like bacon or something. And then the main pizza that we were all kind of splitting was, I believe, the meat deluxe, and it was just like a lot of meat, and I'm down with that. Then we also had as an appetizer some like garlic fries or something like that, and it had like cheese and bacon. It was wild. It was good. It was yum 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 yum, and then mozzarella sticks. So we really chowed down. It was fun. Also, I think a new thing. Well, it's not new, but something I'm maybe discovering about myself. It's so funny. So ha ha he he kiki. Everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people have beef with my little plates that I post on my little Facebook story. Because I'll post everything I eat. Well, not everything, but like a lot of stuff I eat during the week. Maybe before this, I guess another thing I ate was I had a waffle, and then I had chicken poppers, like popcorn chicken. I had a salad, which I put chicken and bacon in. Then I also had a side of bacon. And was there anything else on the plate? It's possible. I'm pretty sure that was what I ate. And I got a lot of feedback about it. You were like, oh, he's on another one. Your food always stresses me out, Isaiah. I don't know. I'm sorry, guys, but I can't stop, and I won't stop. I love eating this weird shit. Sometimes I just want this, that, and the third, and so I just make it happen. What can I say? But other than that, not too much in my week. A little bit of sweet, a little bit of sour. That's how it is. Work is picking up a little bit. I wouldn't say it's like peak time or anything like that, but we're getting some OT. Also, one last food thing before getting into some news. I realize I'm not an apple fritter guy. Like, and if I have to eat an apple fritter, then I want it to actually be kind of fake. Like, I don't really want it to have the apple chunks and stuff in it. Because I got one because our job will do, if you come in on Saturday or whatever, you get a little donut action. So I always have, I've gotten myself into this habit of wanting to get the long bow tie ones. And maybe this is just me being a little greedy fat kid. I just want big. So I wanted that, and I wanted the cinnamon roll. So that's my classic. And someone had just nabbed the cinnamon roll right in front of me. I was like, oh no, I was too slow. I hesitated. Oh no. So I immediately went for impulse greed and just got the next big thing I could get, which was an apple fritter. And I'm like, I know I'm not gonna like this. It was all dark too. Not that that's a problem, I don't care, but the glaze part is nice. So I was like, oh, I'll eat it. It's fine. And I just keep munching on it, trying to finish it, and I just don't want it. And I want to be like half of it and just throwing it away. Because I just don't like, it's all chunky little bits in there. I don't know. The taste usually just kind of is not my favorite thing. But I did make it up, and I got a blueberry donut. It was just little small boy. And I munched that on my way out. So, Had to get mines. Okay. But we can get into some news, getting into some stuff that I missed. Granted, there's definitely going to be some stuff on the cutting room floor. I don't think I'm going to do a leftovers episode. This is just going to be what it is. But we can get into some of the highlights and, break it down a little bit. For starters, we usually do the Ukraine stuff, so there's some developments there. But with Russia, the first story we got is from ABC News. Brittany Griner found guilty in Russian drug trial, sentenced to 9 years in prison. So I'm not really going to get into the guts of this article, just more or less just a quick summary. So far, Brittany Griner has now officially been sentenced to 9.5 years. She had pled guilty, said, hey, I didn't intend to break any laws, at least Russian laws specifically, because she does have a medicinal thing, she has a reason to carry it, or a reason to have it. But this has all been to expedite the whole process. I do believe, it's not in this article, but I do believe that it has come out on the Russian side, from the Kremlin, that they are ready to negotiate now. It seems like they were really just waiting for it to be official and just kind of keeping a facade up. And they still are, more or less. Lavrov has said, yeah, we're talking now, but not we're really, getting into it. And he tries to kind of throw it a little bit well, America's not really doing this or that, and then kind of leaves it. And then Blinken's kind of doing the same. So this dance is just, I guess, what is going to happen. Hopefully the deal for Brittany Griner, Paul Whelan, and Victor Bout will, go through without any kind of hitch, and Brittany Griner can come home. The article has some quotes from Biden, yada, just stuff. But I assume that as this continues, we're going to hopefully see more news, and hopefully this will kind of go quickly. So I don't want to dwell on it too much, because and that's, like I said, it's a good thing that now this is getting coverage, because I know in the beginning it definitely felt like it wasn't. She's been through this whole ordeal for the past 5 months, but I want to say 2 of it was kind of sort of silent, at least 1 for sure, because we weren't necessarily dealing with the invasion from Russia, and then next thing we are, and then we find out, oh, she's been in prison for a month. So moving back on to Russia, or to Ukraine though, we got this from the BBC News. Zaporizhia, real risk of nuclear disaster in Ukraine, watchdog. So once again, just doing a little quick, dropping this on ya. Feel free to look up the article, look up the situation. But essentially, a nuclear plant in Zaporizhia, which we've covered before, it was overtaken by Russia. It was a whole ordeal because in the midst of them taking it over, there was obviously gunfire. There was essentially, I believe, a fire that had broken out from that, or arms hit, parts of the nuclear facility. Luckily, there was no internal massive damage or anything like that. Radiation was good. Everything was in check. Now, an update, post that, it looks like there was some kind of artillery fire or missile strike that took out some high voltage wires, which potentially could lead to a situation, in any kind of situation at a nuclear facility that is the biggest nuclear facility in the world, or one of them, I believe. That's not good. That's not what you want to hear. It's not what you want to see. Now, who did what, it's not really been confirmed. Both sides are kind of blaming the other. Russia is saying they've been attacked, defending this area, holding this area down. As from Ukraine side, they're saying, well, both, sides are firing missiles. Russia is firing missiles out of this area, not necessarily from the nuclear plant, but from the area. And they're also using the nuclear plant as a sort of shield to kind of keep people, or keep Ukrainian or forces out. So it's a pickle. It's not good. Also, a little bit of, I guess you could say, a tangent. I don't have a link or anything for it, but some leftovers I missed. I want to say this took place maybe 2-3 weeks ago, but there was a bombing of a prison that had Ukrainian soldiers and stuff in it, and it was just a really bad scene, a lot of deaths and stuff like that. But it is believed that Russia had captured was it Azov battalion troops, like that they had gotten like from Mariupol, throughout this whole kind of invasion, and they had moved them there, and then that strike happened. And so once again it was they did it. No, they did it, from both sides. So it's not confirmed what happened, but just definitely that was something that kind of came up and got lost in me on the weeds, but I kind of wanted to mention it there. Let's see. In some U.S. international news, got this from CNN Politics. U.S. kills Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri in drone strike in Afghanistan. So this was, I guess, a thing in the making, an operation in the making. Biden, now who has just gotten out of his second stint of isolation in COVID, while he was in isolation, though, he okayed or greenlit a drone strike on al-Zawahiri while he was on his balcony. He was a 71-year-old, Al Qaeda leader. He at one point was Bin Laden's personal physician. They more or less teamed up, and they, were the main architects for, setting up 9/11. Also, I believe he was involved in other bombings and things of that nature, like just masterminding them, taking the credit. He had, more or less made a lot of speeches and things of that nature to, really rally people to fight against America, against other Western forces and, things of that nature. Any kind of, like, quote unquote infidel that they, believed that were against what they believed in. So this was, I guess, like a long time coming, but he was in hiding. And then after troops left Afghanistan, he moved into a richer neighborhood. But I mean, it was more or less just like it's not a well populated area because no one really has money. And it was just his family and him. And they were just watching his routine, keeping up with him. And when he was on his balcony, just hanging out by himself, they took him out. And that was more or less that. There's definitely, like, more details this article has. I mean, don't get me wrong, too. This is a whole long history that's very intricate, and it's not... I mean, don't get me wrong, these guys are definitely the bad guys. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But in terms of, like, what does this do? What does this change? In my opinion, nothing. It doesn't also give anyone any relief. Like, like, cool, you got the number one and number two guys, but it still doesn't explain or justify why these, Saudi Arabian people just went and did this operation. And yet we wound up in Afghanistan. Like, that doesn't correlate. It doesn't make sense. Yet there's just been no, justice. There's been no honest, like saying, hey, we're pointing the finger at these guys and this wasn't right. This wasn't okay. And, I guess money talks. Oil talks a lot. But, I don't know. Once again, speaking of getting in the weeds, I don't want to get there here. So we're going to keep it moving. Let's see. I got this from the Associated Press, AP News. We love them. I guess we do. I don't know. It's one of my favorites. I never really feel like I feel the slant, like where they're biasing this or that or the third. Usually I like it. That and Reuters are kind of like my top two, I'd say. But China cuts off vital U.S. contacts over Pelosi Taiwan visit. Well, actually, we're going to take a little break early here. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Oh, yeah. Milwaukee's best, baby. Okay. So, we're gonna talk a little bit about Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi, House leader. Essentially, she is more or less on the end of her, her career. Not like oh yeah, she's done, sweetie, or whatever. It's just it just makes sense, It's adding up, and she's ready to you know, at the end of her term, whatever happens, she's probably just going to be a wrap. But I guess this is kind of a thing, and like when you're a politician, diplomat, whatever the fuck, you're in this high up thing in Congress, you have if you have the chance and the opportunity to kind of make international ties and do a lot of glad handing and stuff like that, it can just help, and it keeps you in the political conversation in a global way. And that's a good thing. I guess people really want that and want to use time on that. I mean, I guess Pelosi has the money for it, and now she's making the time. So she had said, "Hey, I want to go to Taiwan. I'm gonna hit a bunch of area. I'm gonna hit some areas in the Ooh, excuse me. Sorry, guys. To the end of the mic. Ooh. I want to hit some Asian countries. Say hi. Do some diplomatic stuff. It'll be good. It'll be nice." And most of those were okay, but Taiwan was like, "No, that's a big no. Please don't do that." It's something that we've covered before on the podcast. Taiwan wants to be independent. They are claiming their independence. They are, democratic, independent country. But China has a different take on that. We are one China, and you are an island that is off of us, and you are part of us. Like we have a cultural bond, history. You are us. We are the same. And they have done a lot to ensure that, with everything up to violence. They don't want to do that. They're like, we're just telling you, though, you are a part of us. That's not something we're willing to negotiate. And Taiwan's like, I don't think so, though. I think we're kind of our own thing. We want to work with America our own way. And, of course, for America, that's perfect. That's what we want. We want that. But we also know that China is a very much a parallel to us. They are superpowers to us. Honestly, in a lot of ways, they are probably very much ahead of us. That's a conversation I feel like we don't really like to talk about in the Imperial Core. Like, we don't see it, we don't feel it. We feel like we're the best, we're doing the best, but I don't feel like we have the focus. I don't feel like we really do. I also think it's funny because, like, once again, I said it earlier, but talking about, like, the slant or whatever, whenever I listen to any kind of Western news, press, whatever, if you listen long enough, you can see that there's a narrative that is being pushed on a lot of these major issues, especially. And I do feel like when it comes to China, where I'm listening either to BBC stuff or I'm listening to Start Here, whatever, it's always like, yeah, like China's really trying to do their thing, but, are they us though? Like, and it's like, what? Like, honestly, China is doing their own thing, period. Like, they are a superpower. Like, we are a superpower. But, like, at the end of the day, us trying to meddle in their affairs is always going to look weird and feel weird and usually have a ramification or a consequence. That's just going to happen. So Biden administration is saying, hey, please don't go, Pelosi. We would like you not to do that. We're worried about that. It's going to have, potential ramifications, but we can't stop you from doing it. Biden went out of his way to make sure to say, like, look, the executive branch cannot tell the legislative branch what to do. Like, I can't meddle with that. I can't stop that. But it's just, just please don't do it. Like, he kind of made that, like, that was more or less the long short of that. And Pelosi's like, I'm going to do it. So she went on her tour, and China was like, if you do this, there are going to be consequences. Like, we do not want Pelosi to go to Taiwan. Like, no, don't go. And, she did the tour, and then she lands in Taiwan. She meets the president, other diplomats. Also, was it Tai Zing-wen is the president? Or no, that's the president of the Republic of China, my bad. But, whoops. Let's see. President of China. Okay, Taiwan. Okay, gotcha. We're living and learning in the moment right here. So sorry about the pause. But yeah, so she is the Chinese Taiwan president, which kind of goes to show that this is kind of complicated, no? Because, Xi Jinping is more or less the president or the leader, communist leader of China. And once again, under the One China thing, it's just Xi. Like, and also this coalesces with, I guess, a party like thing that's coming up, which we've also kind of talked about too, like where Xi Jinping is really like, it's like his moment, and he's really moving into the kind of stage of it where it's like, look, I am a pivotal part of this. Like, I am important. Like, this is more. It's like more than music. Like, it's more than the party. It's more than what we usually would do. Like, it's because Xi Jinping is doing a lot right now, and we need him at the helm doing this, that, and third. So essentially, you need to show strength here. You need to flex. And Nancy Pelosi being a fly in the ointment is just not what China wants at all. So she shows up, she does her thing, she glad hands, she leaves. That's it, right? That's all it was supposed to be, right? Especially from the US perspective of, well, that's all she did. Why is this a problem? Like, she just said hi to some people in Taiwan. If a civilian citizen did it, why would that be such a blah blah thing? But it's the message. It's the stuff behind it. It's the realpolitik bullshit. And China knows they're not stupid. Once again, this is game peeping game, and it's like, okay, well, then we have a response for you. Here we go. So essentially, and this is where more or less we're getting into what the article is covering, is the aftermath. China moved out a military drill, which is something they've done before, but this is something they upped it up. They took it to another level this week, and essentially they formed a whole blockade around Taiwan, like with ships, and just everything is blocked off more or less. And then they also have fighter jets, flying around, running drills, shooting missiles, so off of the ships and stuff like that. So it's just Taiwan is just more or less feeling besieged. Like, not necessarily, but they're showing that this could happen right now if we wanted to. We could take you by force right now if we wanted to, which once again goes back to that One China conversation. Now, from the American front, there's like history behind it, how we've kind of worked on the democracy between the two, with Taiwan, with China, and how we kind of say we're okay with it, but also say we're not okay with it, so we can get business done, yada yada yada. But essentially, we have a strategic ambiguity, and that's more or less us just saying, hey, we are going to support Taiwan militarily, but like, we're giving them a certain level of support, and like on paper it's like we're giving them guns and stuff like that, and I think training, like little things, but it's not necessarily us going in and doing anything. But Biden has mentioned literally saying, hey, if it comes down to it, we will militarily get involved. And, pressed to say, it's like, so we're going to send troops or whatever. And he's like, we're going to do it. We're going to do what we need to do. And then the administration's like, he doesn't mean necessarily that. Like, we're not going to actually send military, but we are going to support Taiwan. So this whole situation is super eerie. It's super awkward. And, Taiwan, of course, did a little bit of a defense thing, but they kind of just have been chilling. There's been no casualties. There's been no incidents, because that's a big issue, too, and a fear is what happens if a missile misfires when you pull the trigger here and it actually hits Taiwan or something like that? What happens if something happens? Like, obviously, this jams up, import-export stuff, because you can't actually, move through a blockade like this. But, or at least it dampens it. It makes it harder. So, but what happens if just any kind of incident unfolds? Then we actually have that situation unfolding, and it's like we get put to task on what exactly we will do to support Taiwan. But got to cover that, got into that. Now we're going to take it back to the States, sticking with CNN as well. A jury finds InfoWars conspiracy theorist Alex Jones should pay $45.2 million in punitive damage to the parents of a Sandy Hook shooting victim. So this is a big case that took place over the week. Now, granted, this has been unfolding over time, and more or less we are just in the damages phase, and this is like damage specific trial, and they are going through how much should be awarded to the Sandy Hook shooting victim Jesse Lewis, And the plaintiffs of this lawsuit are, sorry, I'm a little kind of mumbling this out a little bit, but the plaintiffs of this lawsuit are Neil Heslin and Scarlett Lewis. So, the Sandy Hook thing is definitely something that took place, before the podcast. But it was, a big shooting, and a lot of children died in this shooting. And when Alex Jones gets involved in the picture, more or less, Alex Jones is a conspiracy theorist. Now, if you go back to like some of his earlier work, actually interesting. He goes into like what is the Bohemian Grove, and he tries to like get in there and like see some real shit happening and unfolding. And he really doesn't find anything for real, but he's asking some interesting questions. And I mean, I don't know, it was coming off of the heels, not directly, but like if you were a fan of like Michael Moore stuff or whatever, if you were a fan of like any of these kind of like really looking at stuff and really peeling through the looking glass kind of thing, Alex Jones was very appealing, very interesting. But over time, especially then, with the InfoWars and all that kind of stuff, it's more or less just a brand. And what he does is he talks about blah, 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 and he gets you really hyped up, really interested, really, oh, what's going on? What's he going to tell me? What's the real truth? And then next thing you know, he tells you this big truth, and then he follows it up with like, well, I have a thing that will help you. And then that thing that's going to help you is something that costs money and you hopefully will buy. And that's the brand. And he sells that very well. And, he's also used, a lot of his networking to level up in a lot of ways. He winds up next to people like Roger Stone, Donald Trump. Like, these are people who, know him, talk about him. He can talk about them. Like, they have this, like, rapport, this discourse. That's crazy shit. That's really climbing up the ladder. That's really making some moves. It's slimy and it's gross, but you got to give him credit for that kind of shit. Also, I heard, too, from, little clips and stuff I've heard from this trial, he makes about $800,000 a day off of sales. But in regards to Sandy Hook, the big shtick that he had was that it's fake. That this was just some big old fucking hoax, and they're using it to stop you from buying guns. They want to stop they want to infringe on your right to bear arms. And they're using crisis actors, and these kids aren't real. These parents are lying. All this shit's fake. And I don't know, shit came home to roost. The chickens came home to roost. I think that's the phrase, right? And he's on the hook for a lot of money. The grand total of $49.3 million, and then $45.2 million in punitive damage, but it may be reduced by the Texas statute, which I believe is like $750,000. But he, along the way of this trial, like, it just adds up. I believe like he's at least on the hook for like $1.5 million in punitive damage, even with the cap of $750,000 per plaintiff. And that's just for these parents. And I really do feel like he was made an example of, but in my opinion, a good way. He definitely, throughout this trial, he wanted to make this about freedom of speech. And he has said before, when he was, found guilty of this shit, is like, hey, look, I understand. This isn't these kids are real. Like, these parents are real, yada yada yada. But what I'm doing, it's an acting. Like, it's like someone had to literally put a legal gun to his head to get him to say this. And now he's more or less saying like, yeah, no, that's what it is in court. But then outside of court, he's saying a bunch of crazy shit. There is video of him on InfoWars saying he wants to burn the judge, but then asked in court by the lawyer, Wesley Todd Ball, he says, no, I didn't say that. That's not what I said. Like, I didn't say anything bad about the judge. And then he shows the clip, and it's literally like, I think it's like Lady Justice with her eyes closed. And then, like, it's a picture of the judge, and there's, like, fire. It's ridiculous as fuck. And it is a whole just comedy of errors from Alex Jones and his team. Let's see. I believe his lawyer, Indino Reynal. And this guy is a real all-star. And we got to talk about him. He's going to get his own little part here. Essentially, this man fumbled the ball so hard. So hard. What happened was, and it's not just him, too, when you actually get into the details, I've learned a little bit, just like poking around. But essentially, they had all of Alex Jones's text messages from his cell phone. They had his cell phone. They had all his text message information, all this stuff. And they had it, I guess, all on a file. And this guy, this lawyer, Reynal, he's supposed to send it to another lawyer on the team, but he sends it to the opposing legal team. That's so wild. And that's the first part. That's what I heard initially, and I was like, damn, what an L. That's fucked. And then I actually heard clips from the trial, and you hear Ball, he tees up Jones so hard. And Jones calls it, this is his Perry Mason moment or whatever. But essentially, he's asking Jones, like, hey, I know you lied to me about this thing. And he's like, what? Like, he's more or less saying, like, no, I don't. He's like, and I'm telling you how I know this. I know because I have your text messages. And he's like, do you know how I have your text messages, Alex? And he's explaining. And then Alex, like, immediately, like, shifts the conversation to how he's just, like, he's not a tech guy. He doesn't really understand what happened. Sure, he gave him one of his phones, yada, yada, yada. But essentially, Ball goes on to explain, one of your lawyers sent me all of your text messages that you've ever sent to these people, to Roger Stone, all of this stuff that you're talking about, whether you're telling the truth or you're not telling the truth, it's all here in these text messages, and I have them. And not to mention, there was days went by, 12 days, I believe, went by, and they could have made this privileged information, at least fought for it, and they didn't even bother. So guess what? I have this and I get to use it here and now legally on you. Like, it was so good. This man was having, like, just Sherlock Holmes moment. Like, just so good. Honestly, love that for him. And he had it in a post, like, talking. He's like, look, this is a big moment because us getting approved for this is going to open the floodgates. This is just one set of parents. I believe this is, like, potentially, I think 20 others or something like that. I might be wrong on the number, but this is a floodgate opening. There are quotes from Alex Jones saying, like, look, like, this is going to bankrupt us. I think talking about $2 million, and you hear the judge, and the judge is, like, literally the whole time, like, more or less running him through it like he's a little baby. Like, look, this is how the law works, by the way, because you don't understand. Like, you keep trying to mention things that you can't mention. Like, we're talking to you, not things you heard, not things you saw on the internet. Like, no, we're talking to you, and it's what you're saying, what you have done or not done. Like, keep it to that. Like, stop. But he's like, this is going to bankrupt us. This is everything we have. And she's like, that's not what this is about. It's about you paying the price that you're supposed to be paying. And, like, that's that, brother. Like, so kudos to Judge on this one. I am happy to see it. Oh, Judge Maya Guerra Gamble. So flowers to her. I feel like she did her job on this one. I mean, I'm sure there might be an appeal. Also, I mean, dude might get into some trouble. The Reynal guy, he might be in some hot water. But in some less glamorous stuff, I wanted to talk about a little bit of what's going on in Congress, a little bit of catch up, a little bit of new and a little leftovers. So I wanted to talk about the PACT Act first. And this is, let's see, we'll get the article, where it's from. The Hill, implementing the PACT Act is veterans' next battle. So essentially, there was a bill that finally passed in the Senate after a little bit of bullshit from the Republicans. But essentially, this bill, this PACT Act, is going to expand medical coverage for former service members with toxic exposures. This also goes back to even veterans from Vietnam who, like, had to deal with Agent Orange and had symptoms from that. But there's just a huge backlog, and people haven't been able to be, seen or have any of their needs met. And luckily, with a lot of pushing from, a lot of people, obviously in politics in Congress, and then also I saw, was it Jon Stewart? Jon Stewart was apparently a big part of this. But this act is definitely going to be, a good thing. But some of the hassle that I had kind of heard about was Ted Cruz and a couple other senators were just like, no, we're not going to support this. We don't like this bill. Even though along the way, because this has been years in the making, this bill, it was fine. There was no problems. But the next thing you know, we're talking about, oh, this is going to be so much money. What do you mean? I don't think we should be able to do this. Oh, I haven't read all the provisions. Is this all okay? Yada, yada, yada. And they just really put on the brakes on this. And I think that's the sickest thing, because you can always talk about politicizing things or not politicizing things. But from what I've heard, a lot of this is in regard to Joe Manchin kind of flipping the script, and I haven't really covered this because I'm super gun shy about certain Congress shit, because once I talk about it and think it's going to happen, it doesn't happen at all. And I think this is kind of one of those shaky things. But it's this bill called the IRA bill or pact, whatever. I don't know what it is called exactly, but it is Inflation Reduction Act. I think that's what it is. And essentially, it is the chopped up, minced up version of more or less what we could get, I guess, out of the Build Back Better. And it's doing some things like some Medicare, and not so much like climate change, like that kind of stuff's been like cut out. But essentially, it's going to help ease some stuff. And the medical stuff that was added on was super good. But more or less, his Manchin just making a turnaround saying, like, oh, okay, I could get along with this and these things. And now I'm willing to say I did all the work and I'm doing all the right stuff and I'm on the Democrat side here. And he's faced some flack from, the conservative media, like Fox News and whatnot. But also in Congress, it's alleged that they were kind of like, okay, no, we're going to actually fuck with this bill. Because this is a bipartisan thing. Both parties are supposed to be okay with it. And then they kind of said, we're not okay with it anymore. Actually, fuck this. And they wanted to make it difficult. So, they all came up with the little reasons or whatever. You can see Ted Cruz fist bumping another Republican. I wish I had his name, but I just don't have it. And they're like, yeah, we did it. Okay. But then throughout some smoothing, fixing, trimming, maybe, I don't know, this bill more or less got through. And that's a good thing. Even though there were still some Republicans that said, oh, I don't like this. I believe like 11. That still, even to the end, were like, I'm just not going to actually support it. Sorry. So that's kind of foul. That's kind of gross. But I am glad it happened and it got through. And then from closing, I wanted to talk about a bill that kind of affects some Ohioans and stuff. It's some Ohio news, if you will. It at least trickles down to us. But the U.S. House passes CHIPS Act that would fund Ohio Intel plant and sends it to Biden's desk. This is from Cleveland.com. But long short here, this is another bill that got passed, I believe, a week or two ago. But it's going to potentially get us a super, what is it? It's like semiconductor. But essentially, like, these are the semiconductor. Okay, so it's a semiconductor plant, but it's going to allow us to make chips. And those chips are going to be used in cars. Chips are going to be used in computers in this specific situation with the Intel plant that's going to be like built in Ohio. But what is it? A $280 billion package that would provide more than $52 billion in grants and other incentives for the semiconductor industry, as well as a 25% tax credit for those companies that invest in chip plants in the U.S. It also calls for increased spending in other research programs that would total about $200 billion over 10 years, according to the Congressional Budget Office. So, big news. Tim Ryan, apparently, which is like one of our Ohio senators, really lobbied and fought for it. He's currently going up against, J.D. Vance, which I will say from an on-the-ground perspective, just looking at like the media, I haven't seen JD Vance anywhere. Like, there's no ads, no nothing. It's almost like just a script got flipped. Actually, and I'm glad I got to this point because it's something I forgot to mention. It's crazy how campaign strategies work. I want to say these days, but this has been an ongoing thing since, at least from what I remember, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. The strategy of, and I'm not necessarily saying in the Ohio situation, but there are situations where the Democratic Party will literally financially back, or in other ways back, a crazy, like, right wing, like hyper right wing candidate in the hopes of, in the primary election or whatever happens, that they get the win because they're more moderate in general. They're just a Democrat, period. And they're giving you that milquetoast government you like, and you like this. Yes, okay, you'll vote for me and not the crazy person, right? And literally, that's the play. I believe there was a situation in Michigan where a Republican who was moderate, a guy who had seen after the January 6th thing, he's like, this isn't cool, this isn't okay. You know, I'm not okay with Donald Trump as my president at this point. Like, I see a problem. The Democratic, committee backed a more alt-right guy. Well, not alt-right, I guess. I feel like it's alt-right, but he was more conservative, wanted Trump to win, believes in the fake election, or the fraud election, and yada yada yada, and they're risking it. They're rolling the dice so that way in the primary, their Democratic nominee, or the person fighting for their seat, whatever, will have a chance to win. So it's crazy that that's just the Kamehameha wave of the Democratic Party is this. And it's very risky because it doesn't always work, as we've seen by Donald Trump, and it's also in the state local level. And I mean, it also has worked, but it doesn't mean that it's going to keep working and that this is the only way. You'd rather see something more straight up. And I hate that this is the Democrats fighting dirty, quote unquote. Like, one, I don't think it's good enough. And two, I don't think it's the right play. I don't think it's the winning move. So, from me and my liberal perspective, I definitely don't like that. But yeah, that's kind of a tangent. Also, something I know a little bit jarring, but something I kind of missed in the China thing. They also cut ties too, and they said, we don't want to work with you guys on climate and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, sure. Who's really actually doing anything as a superpower right now? Especially with the whole, Ukraine, Russia stuff, and just the sanctions and then the counter sanctions. Like, it seems like a lot of empty stuff. It seemed like, once again, with that, they just wanted to use the Taiwan Pelosi thing to just focus on them a little bit, a little bit of them time. But sorry, we're getting back to this article right here. Sorry about that, guys. But chips is going to be an interesting thing because it'll hopefully bring more jobs to the Ohio area, and hopefully that'll be a good thing. Though it has had some even detractors on the Democratic side. Bernie Sanders apparently was not a fan of it as well. He said it's kind of like a corporate welfare, and it's a shame that that's the only welfare that is supported by our government. Oh, this bank doesn't work out. Oh, this company, these whatevers, these bigwigs, these tech whatevers, like, they get by. They get to get help. But, the average Joe Schmo or whatever is going to pay all their taxes, and if they don't make it, they don't make it. Sorry. Hopefully you get that government cheese or whatever. Like, I don't know. Getting a little bit of a tangent again. I'm sorry, it's a little bit of a long and loose episode, but I thank you for sticking around. I really feel like that more or less wraps it up. We're gonna put a little bow on it though. I do have a Patreon if you'd like to help and support. It is patreon.com/Isaiah News. Also, I have a Gmail, isaiahnews1@gmail.com, if you have any just free feedback you'd like to do, whatever. But with the Patreon, every dollar helps. Every $5, though, will get you Discord access, and then it also gets you a shout-out on the pod. Shout out to Stephanie Renee. You're the best. You're the queen of the pod. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for being the best newsie, the alpha newsie, the one. You know, you're like the predator beast. You're the predator of that one. You're the alpha. You're like, I don't know. I actually need to watch that, but I might be too scared. I always try to like push myself, but everyone keeps saying that that's a good movie. Like it's solid and it delivers. Maybe I might watch it, but no promises. Okay, guys, don't bully me into this. Or maybe I don't know. Maybe I need this. But I will see you later. I hope you have a great week, and hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love you. Bye bye. Mwah.